Have you ever felt that no matter how much you try to connect, it seems like no one understands you? That your deep conversations are met with strangeness? That your worldview bothers others? And that suddenly everything that was normal no longer makes sense? If so, perhaps this is not rejection, but divine separation. The truth is that there is a loneliness that does not come from a lack of people. It comes from a greater purpose, from a calling, from a choice that God made about you even before you understood what it meant. And yes, being chosen hurts, because before you shine, you must be shaped. Chosen women do not live an ordinary journey. They are trained in silence, in anonymity, in secret. They are often the ones who cry in silence, make decisions that no one understands, and distance themselves from environments that no longer feed their souls. And do you know why? Because they were not made to fit in. They were made to overflow. It is not easy to be different in a world that celebrates the ordinary. But God did not call you to please the world. He called you to transform lives, and every transformation begins from within, in the heart, in the way you handle the processes that no one sees. Perhaps you're in one of those moments right now, a time when everything seems stuck, uncomfortable, even lonely. But this is not the end. It is just the beginning of your preparation. And if you remain steadfast, you will realize that this phase is not punishing you, it is building you. In this video, I want to show you 7 profound reasons why chosen women often walk alone, not out of weakness, but out of purpose. Each point will help you understand that there is a plan in all of this that you are experiencing. If this message has already spoken to you, imagine what is coming next. So stay with me until the end. And if you feel that this channel can strengthen you on this journey, subscribe and turn on the notifications. 1. They have a sensitive and deep gaze that few understand. Some women can see beyond what the eyes show. It is not about magic or mysticism. It is a type of silent perception, born from a connection with God and with what is true. These women feel when something is wrong. Even when everything seems right on the outside, they enter environments and immediately grasp the atmosphere. Even when everyone is smiling, they notice the tight hearts. They know when someone is suffering in silence. They know when an intention is not pure. They know when it is best to distance themselves, even without having proof. This sensitivity is not something they learned. It is something they have carried since always. Like Miriam, the sister of Moses, who had discernment from a young age. She understood God's plan even without anyone explaining it. She watched over her brother in the river and had the wisdom to make quick decisions with courage and faith. Chosen women see the invisible, and this often frightens those who live on the surface. Those who prefer to live by appearances feel uncomfortable with those who see the essence. That is why they are often misunderstood, judged, or even avoided. Not for doing something wrong, but for perceiving too much. The sensitivity of a chosen woman is a gift, but it is not always light. Carrying this deeper vision of the world can be lonely, because not everyone is ready to deal with someone who feels so intensely, who perceives the unspoken, who sees with their eyes and loves with their spirit. It is not uncommon for these women to be seen as exaggerated, too intense, or difficult to please, when in fact they simply do not settle for the shallow. They do not want to be where everything is automatic, empty, mechanical. They hunger for truth, thirst for the soul. This sensitivity also makes them more protective. They sense when a friendship is not good, when a relationship is toxic, when a place is draining their energy, and no matter how much they try to explain this to others, few people understand or give them credit. Many learn over time to keep to themselves what they perceive, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. They know that not everyone is ready to hear certain truths. They know that sometimes silence protects more than speech. They know that not every revelation needs to be shared. This is where spiritual discernment comes in, because emotional sensitivity is feeling a lot, but discernment is knowing what to do with what is felt. And that is the difference God develops in a chosen woman. He not only makes her feel, but teaches her to act with wisdom. This discernment frees her from traps, guides her along paths of peace, and keeps her away from people who would only delay her process. But it can also make her feel isolated, because the price of seeing more is often walking alone, until God sends those who perceive with the same depth. Even so, she should not close herself off. She should not nullify herself. Her sensitivity is a rare gift, and those who are ready will see its value. They will want to be close, hear what she has to say, learn from her intuition, and grow alongside her. Being a woman with a sensitive vision is to walk a fine line between feeling everything and not absorbing everything. It is knowing what is yours and what belongs to others. It is praying for wisdom every day so as not to get lost in intensity. And above all, trusting that God gave this gift for a reason. If you identified with this, know you are not wrong for feeling so much. You are being shaped to perceive what many ignore, and this is part of your calling. Trust this vision. It will guide you to where no one else could lead you. 2. They do not fit into the patterns of the world. From an early age, some women feel that they are different, not because they dress differently or think against everything, but simply because they cannot fit into the mold that the world offers. Nothing seems to make as much sense as doing what God wants them to do. While many go with the flow, seeking approval, immediate success, and a pre-formatted life, these women feel a discomfort, as if inside them there is a compass pointing in another direction, a quieter, truer path, but also a lonelier one. This does not mean they despise the path of others. On the contrary, chosen women have respect for everyone's process, but they know deep down that their path will be different, deeper, more demanding, because the purpose they carry is also greater. They try to fit in for a while. They pretend to be comfortable. They participate in conversations, try to take an interest in the same things. But over time, they feel empty. Everything seems repetitive, shallow, disconnected from what burns in their hearts. It is not about arrogance, but about purpose. When a woman is chosen, the ordinary no longer feeds her. The superficial does not satisfy. The routine that pleases many becomes a burden for her, because she knows she was born for something greater, even without fully understanding what it is yet. Deborah, the judge of Israel, was like this. In a time when the role of women was limited, she stood out. She judged cases, led armies, prophesied. She did not wait for the world to accept her position. She simply obeyed the voice of God, and He confirmed her choice. Being outside of the norm has a cost. People judge, they criticize, they question, they try to fit her into a mold. They try to clip her wings. They try to silence her. They say things like, "You want too much. This is just a phase," or "You complicate what is simple." But none of this silences the voice of the Spirit within her. Sometimes she herself questions whether she is wrong, if she is dreaming too big, if she should settle for less like everyone around her. But then something happens, a confirmation, a sign, a touch from God that reminds her, you were made to break limits, not to follow someone else's tracks. This restlessness she feels is not vanity. It is the call knocking at the door. And the more she tries to ignore it, the more God insists, because He does not give up on those He has called. He moves everything around until the woman understands. You were not born to fit in, you were born to lead. But this requires courage. The courage to endure the sideways glances. The courage to say no when everyone says yes. The courage to not lose herself just to please those who will never understand the depth of her calling. Over time, she learns to embrace her uniqueness. She understands that not fitting into the world's standards is what makes her strong, different, and transformative, and that there are other women also chosen, waiting for a reference to have the strength to continue. The world needs women who do not bend to the system, who live with truth even if it costs them approval, who walk with faith even without support, who obey God even when no one understands. If this is your case, do not fight against your difference. Honor it. It is part of God's seal upon your life. And in due time, you will see that what today seems like separation is, in fact, preparation for the place where only the chosen can go. 3. Your inner strength disturbs those who prefer control. Not all strength is loud. There is a silent strength that lives in the gaze of someone who has been through a lot but has not allowed themselves to harden. The chosen woman carries exactly this type of strength. She is not strong because she wants to be. She is strong because she had to be. This strength did not arise from comfort. It was shaped in pain, in loss, in the phases when no one came to help. It was there, between tears and whispered prayers, that God lifted her spirit. That is why she walks with firmness today, even when everything seems to be collapsing. But this strength is frightening. It disturbs those who have grown accustomed to being around women who constantly need approval, direction, or validation. The chosen woman does not live in search of this. She listens to God and follows the direction she receives in secret. And this destabilizes those who prefer to have control over others. In many relationships, this becomes a challenge because some people do not know how to deal with someone who has an opinion, a vision, and a purpose. They try to belittle, manipulate, and disconnect. All of this subtly to regain the control they feel they are losing. But the chosen woman no longer fits into these cycles. She even tries to adapt out of love, empathy, and a desire for peace. But over time, she realizes that she can no longer hide her light just to make others comfortable. Her strength is part of her mission. Esther is a powerful example of this. She was placed in a position of honor, but it was not the title of queen that strengthened her. It was the courage to stand up when no one else could. She faced risks, broke through fear, and used her strength to save lives. The chosen woman does this too. She does not raise her voice out of ego. She stands up out of conviction. She does not challenge to hurt, but to protect. Her heart is firm, but also sensitive. And this balance is rare. That's why it's so misunderstood. Being strong does not mean she does not feel. Many times, she cries in silence, prays in secret, and carries burdens she does not share with anyone. But even so, she remains standing. And this confuses people because the world expects her to break. But she flourishes. This woman does not need to control anyone because she herself has already been controlled by circumstances, and she has broken free. Now, her only dependence is on God. It is in Him that she trusts, replenishes herself, and moves forward. And this freedom is what makes her so strong. If you feel that your strength has disturbed some around you, do not blame yourself. This is a sign that you are aligning yourself with your purpose. Not everyone can walk alongside someone who has already understood who they are, but God will surround you with people who value that strength, not who try to extinguish it. 4. Your connection with God alters priorities. When God begins to occupy the center of a chosen woman's life, everything around her starts to change, not forcefully, but naturally. Things that once enchanted her no longer shine the same way. What once made sense now feels empty. This transformation is silent. It happens within the heart. One day she realizes that certain conversations no longer attract her, that being in certain places leaves her restless, that participating in some cycles makes her feel out of place. And then she starts to distance herself, not out of pride, but for protection. The connection with God brings clarity, and with clarity comes choices. Choices that may seem radical to others, but make complete sense to those who have already felt the touch of heaven. The chosen woman begins to perceive what nourishes her soul and what only takes up space. She starts to prioritize silence, prayer, and moments of solitude. She begins to value people who talk about growth, faith, and purpose. She no longer feels comfortable in environments where there is only gossip, competition, ostentation, or vanity disguised as self-esteem. She longs for something more. Mary of Bethany was exactly like this. While everyone was busy with tasks, she chose to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen to every word. She did not worry about judgments or other people's expectations. She just knew where she wanted to be, and Jesus defended her for it. The woman who is guided by God needs to have the courage to distance herself from what no longer makes sense. Because when she changes, the world around her tries to pull her back. Friends say she is different. Family members think she is distant. Others call her snobbish or radical. But she knows that is not true. She is simply more connected to the truth. And every true connection requires previous disconnections. God is not isolating her. He is preparing her. He is tuning her ears so she can hear His voice amidst the noise of the world. The connection with God does not make her perfect, but it awakens in her a sense of identity. She knows who she is. And because she knows, she no longer allows herself to live just anything. She does not accept emotional, spiritual, or relational crumbs. Because those who know God's banquet do not settle for leftovers. This woman begins to have filters, and they are not human filters, they are spiritual. Before accepting an invitation, she prays. Before starting something, she asks God if it is the right time. Before opening her heart, she discerns the Spirit. This may seem excessive to the world, but for her, it is protection. If you feel that you have been distancing yourself from people or places without fully understanding why, pay attention. It may not be coldness, but growth. God has taken you to another level, and in this new level, not everything and not everyone fits. Stay strong. Your connection with the higher will align everything that is down here. Even if today seems confusing, at the right time, everything will make sense. And when it does, you will be grateful for not having turned back. God is in every detail, in the strength that lifts you up in the morning, in the deliverance that you did not even notice, in the peace that comes out of nowhere. He does not need to prove that He is with you. He simply is faithful, constant, present. The woman who has been set apart for something great needs to learn this. The presence of God does not depend on feelings. Sometimes He will leave you in silence to strengthen your roots, not because He abandoned you, but because He trusts that you will continue even without understanding everything. Heaven watches every step. Every tear that no one saw, God collected. Every prayer that seemed unanswered was heard. Every moment of weakness, He held your hand, and when you thought you could not endure, it was He who sustained you. True faith is born there when you understand that, even without signs, God is at work. When you choose to continue, even without applause, even without an audience, because your trust is in Him, not in the circumstances. You may walk alone on the outside, but on the inside, you are being guided with precision, not by emotions, but by the Spirit. And that is a security that no one can take away from you. So, even if it seems like you are alone, remember, a chosen one never walks alone. Heaven watches over you, observes you, and strengthens you always. 7. Some people were not made for the new phase. One of the quietest pains of the chosen woman is realizing that as she grows, some people will distance themselves. And not because there was a fight, hurt, or mistake, but simply because they can no longer walk with her. The calling on her life requires space. And not everyone has the emotional or spiritual structure to stay by her side at this new level. It is not pride, it is transition. And some connections do not survive change. You start to think differently, feel differently, seek deeper things. And those who once made sense now seem distant. There are no more conversations that connect, plans that align, or energy that supports. And as painful as it is, you understand it's time to let go. It was like this with Ruth. She had the chance to return to the past just like Orpah did, but she chose to move toward the new, even without guarantees. And those who stayed by her side shared in the harvest later. Some journeys are lonely at first, but fruitful in the end. The chosen woman needs to know that growing hurts, because part of growth is letting go of what was comfortable. It is accepting that not everyone who started with you will go all the way, and that's okay. Some were only placed in your path for a season. Do not blame yourself for moving forward, for changing, for evolving. This is not a lack of love. It is respect for who you are becoming. And those who are truly aligned with your purpose will remain, not by force, but by spiritual affinity. God will remove some people, but He will also send others. And those who come after your transformation are the ones who will add to you, support you, and propel you forward. People who understand your silence, celebrate your victories, and pray for your battles. So do not cry over what is gone. The new phase requires a new version of you, and that version is being prepared for great things. Trust. God is taking care of every detail, including the right connections. If you are going through a time of loneliness, know that this is not a mistake. It is a sign, a process. God separates to transform. He silences the surroundings to speak louder within. And when He chooses a woman, the first thing He does is take her out of the ordinary. It is not because you are weak, unfit, or too sensitive. It is because you carry something special, something that needs space, silence, and depth to bloom. And isolation is the ground where this begins to be generated. Every tear that has fallen in the dark, God saw. Every renunciation, every pain, every farewell has a purpose. Nothing is in vain. You are being shaped for something great, and when this time passes, because it will pass, you will not be the same. Now tell me, which of these 7 reasons spoke to you the most today? I really want to know what God has been dealing